All right, we are live. It is Shot of Hope live. I am Mickey the Kid with my co-host, compadre, son, Jake.
Yeah, what's up?
Yo, what's up?
What's going on?
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Some cheese to start out.
Yeah.
Okay, quit doing that. There you go. Yeah. Every time you keep moving the cord at the bottom, so the bottom is where it connects to the microphone. Whatever you're touching there, it sends incredible, wonderful feedback right back to the.
Need a stand for it.
Yeah, there we go. We should get a stand that we can mount to the couch, and for all guests, so that way they don't have to touch it. You just lean right into the microphone. Go, hey, how you doing, bro?
Problem solved.
Drop the board shorts and the hat, man. I'm ready to go. Talk addiction. Oh, man, it feels good to be back after having quite the hiatus. I think it's been like a year since we did the last show. And, God, I had so many great guests on. I was had my co-host, Sober Gangster, which still love that guy. But he's doing his thing, and he's busy and got his whole thing going. And then you got a lot of great guests, Addict with Purpose, Rachel. We had so many good people, Harlan Wise, Joel from the Sober Sessions, all this stuff that's been going on. But I think the biggest thing for us is you just picked up a year clean.
Yeah, a year clean. It's first time ever.
Yeah, first time in since you were, I don't know, when did you first get high?
When I was 15, I smoked weed, and that was the same year I experimented with opiates. So, so it's been 16 years opiates, and yeah.
But who introduced? Like, how'd you get into smoking weed? Like, because I remember in 2008, I'm gonna guess it's probably 2009 was when you moved to New York.
Yeah.
You were like 15.
So I skated a lot when I was younger, and I was at the skate park, and my buddy's older brother was up there, and he's like, "Hey man, you want to smoke?" And I'm like, yeah, let's try it. Let's give it a rip. Absolutely did not like it. I was freaking out, dude. It was something I never experienced before. Yeah, it was crazy. And then
now were you smoking cigs or anything like that when you were a teenager as well?
Mm-hmm.
So experimenting with everything.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Addict personality from the jump.
Yep.
It's like, hey, give me this. Yeah, let me try that. Is it going to make me feel different than I feel right now? I'm in.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a Mormon. I need more, man.
Yeah, it's true. We're all Mormon. Believe it or not. And that's why it's alcoholism and not alcoholism. And that's why addiction is what it is, And so on the opiates thing, so did you used to experimented with opiates at 15 as well?
Yeah, I think it was 15 or maybe.
I remember 17.
I know maybe it was early 16 because my cousin was like 12, so that means Jesse.
Jesse wasn't. No, he had to be older than that.
He was like 12 when I was taking him. I remember he was like right around that age. My grandma had back surgery. Whatever year my grandma had back surgery.
Yeah.
I was at their house for the summer, and I just I saw that they had these things and it said Oxy, and I don't know how I knew, but for whatever reason, I think I looked it up and it said that it got you high, so I took 2 of them at 15 years old. I was
just buttered.
Yeah, I was sick, but
I would have been sick too. I'm surprised. Were you puking?
Yeah, I was puking.
Oh yeah, you had to be.
Better than I ever thought was possible.
Oh yeah, the tingly sensations. Your hair is just like, oh man.
That was the start of it.
After the puking was over.
And I found myself not being able to stop taking them. I took them every day from her, and then
wow,
yeah, it was crazy.
And then of course, obviously, your cousin took them as well, and everybody was getting on. I never went the opiates route, just because I don't know, I was fearful. I tried OxyContin one time. Somebody gave me like a half a pill, and this is while I was doing cocaine, and it was just
horrible.
Oh my God. Yeah. And at the time I was trying the girl that I was dating at the time, I was trying to mask that I was staying sober. Meanwhile, I'm snorting coke with my buddy Clayton. And then we have this party at the house, and then this lady who was a listener of the radio show I was on, she's like, she's like, hey, have you ever had an oxy? You want an oxy, honey? And I was like, yeah, let's try it. I'll try anything once. So so I tried the oxy, and so then we decided we're going to this place called I forget what it is, Coralwood Lanes. It was like a bowling alley in Cape Coral, Florida, and that was it. I was like, as soon as I had that, we were just like, oh, it was terrible. I was immediately as soon as we got there, all of a sudden there was this like really shook behavior that I was having. Like everything started to go in between each, because you have the coke fighting with the opiate. Yeah. And all I'm doing is drinking iced tea. Everybody's drinking beer around me at the bar, and I'm at the bowling alley, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love that. I was trying to think of how I could sneak in a mixed drink, because I was quote unquote on the wagon at the time. I was boozeless. Let's just put it that way. I don't know about the wagon. Yeah. You know, I was far off the wagon as you could get. Yeah. You know, I mean, you're doing cocaine. You know, I mean, it's like you're
as far from the wagon.
You're building the wagon. You know what I mean? And you're carrying the wagon at that point. I mean, so but the oxy kicked in with that, and the next thing I knew, I was just running from where we were all, you know, those little horseshoe bowling alley sitting areas, you know, while you're waiting for your ball.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just not sprinting, but I was at a hot pace to the bathroom, where I would just absolutely was just puking up sweet tea all night. Oh, it was terrible. I have never felt so bad in my life than that whole little experience with taking a half an oxy, and that was only a half of one, dude. I couldn't imagine taking two.
Yeah, it was it was an experience.
And well, obviously, it led you to, you know, how many years? 13 years or something like that.
Something like that. I can't remember the exact age. I did try heroin first. I know it was like 17 or 18 or something. It was right around the time I got my GED, a little bit before I got my GED. Oh, no, it was like a year or two before that. I don't know. It was like 17 or 18. My memory's so bad. It's so hard to, like, remember the exact times of when things happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I
remember 17 because I remember going and picking you up.
So it was probably right around there. It's like 17.
So almost 14 years. Well, 13 years, because you've been clean a little over a year now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the first time, you know, IV heroin was 19. And then, so I haven't been clean since. It's been ripping and running for that long. So
what was the, you know, for those people out there that don't know, what was the breaking point for you? What was the, you know, I'm at the end.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously arrests, you know, DUIs, all the things that led you to, you know, the catastrophes.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing. Well, there was a point where, you know, I was living at this girl's house, and, you know, she was kind of just supplying me with as much drugs as I possibly wanted. And
sugar mama.
Yeah, and so one day while I was at her house, I was there alone, and I was just had all these drugs, and I just had this moment where I just was like, this shit is just not making me happy. You know, I've been arrested and got DUIs, you know, the other stuff, and none of that made me want to stop until finally I had that experience where I didn't have to chase the drugs anymore. They were kind of just there, and it made me realize the drugs didn't make me happy anymore. Or they never were making me happy. It was just a mask. So I kind of realized that when I was there, and I checked myself into treatment. And I was on the run at that time.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, you went with me to Maryland, where I was a keynote speaker at the State of Maryland Child Welfare and Trauma Institute. And I always think about that, like the trauma that you experienced while in your addiction, you know, because like you and I, as a father and son, you know, like I didn't get to live your life as much as you didn't get to live my life. But when we did share lives together in addiction, you know, it was always a party, and it was just, you know, sometimes it was catastrophic. Sometimes it was momentous, you know, sometimes it was some of the best experiences we had, you know, and as they say, you know, as much as many bad times as you may have had using drugs, you probably had just as many good times.
Yeah.
But I know that the trauma, and especially to where things led to, where you're, on the east side of Cleveland, running with some rugged people.
Yeah.
I mean, you can share some of that for the guy who's out there trying to watch this and has no hope. He just keeps putting one in.
Yeah.
And you get the relatability factor of just being homeless, being on the street, sleeping in cars.
Yeah. So like I was renting a place out there, and when I started getting high again, obviously I lost the place, and none of that really mattered to me. All I cared about was getting high, and eventually you cross a point while you're getting high that you don't care about anything but the drugs. You don't care about your family, your friends, nobody. And you think that you have lines that you won't cross, but you cross them once you're in that situation. Like
Sure.
when you're that deep in your addiction. And it took me to places where I hurt a lot of people, and I traumatized people that were out there, and just older people, younger people, it didn't matter. I mean, however I had to get money is what I did, whether it was putting guns in people's faces, stealing cars, or just whatever it was. I mean, there was no limit to no line I wasn't going to cross. I was crossing every line in order to get mine.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. And yeah, it's unfortunate. That's where eventually every addict, they will be led down that path to that point if they keep going the way they're going.
Yeah.
I mean, it eventually gets bad. When I first started using, I said I would never use needles, and here we are 2 years later, I'm using needles, and it's just crazy. There's things you say you will never do, but you end up doing them anyway.
Yeah, I think that was my at least I can only speak for myself. I just know that when I was doing cocaine and smoking crack and drinking, I knew that I was terrified to use a needle, and I never put a needle in my arm. I never even sniffed heroin. I have no idea what any of that stuff feels like, because I had seen what it had done to so many people, and I was like, man, I can't. There's no way I can do that, because I'm a guy who go big. I went big on everything. If I was doing coke, I wasn't doing, some little pencil line.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, cut me out a hog leg. Something that's either something that clogs up my nose and has big chunks and boulders in it, so that so I'm choking on it as I'm swallowing it back with a numb throat.
Yeah.
Those feelings, or when I was smoking crack, dude, it was just like, pile it in so I can push the pipe, 17 times before I got put the next piece in, and it was just, but I was afraid of heroin because I knew I'd put too much. I would have been the guy that would have died.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I would have not have been the drug addict to survive, because it was just, I was always, well, if this high's good, the next high's got to be better. We got to go bigger.
Yeah, well, I am you, and I've survived 18 overdoses because I have the same mentality.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
To feel the max amount of feeling that this drug can bring.
Yeah.
And then you take it to that limit, and
now let's go a little further.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just keep going until there's no place to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was, I think that's every drug addict's, cross to bear. Is it, because it only ends, and as I only know, it ends three ways. It's either you're going to get locked up, you're going to get covered up, or you're going to get sobered up, or cleaned up, whatever you want to do, whatever fellowship you want to do. Now, I see a lot of people out there in the world today that, I get all the whole self-love stuff, but let me tell you something. If you're trying to get clean or sober on your own, that's like the hardest fucking thing to do on the planet.
Yeah.
And especially if you're an opiate addict,
2%.
The national statistic is like 2% or 2 out of every however many addicts recovered. 2 out of every 100 recover from heroin addiction. And now it's not even heroin anymore. It's fentanyl.
Oh, now it's xylazine. And I mean, if you think you can do it by yourself, I mean, I've been to over 35 detoxes and treatments and I try to do it by myself every single time. And then this last time was the only time I ever decided to fucking actually get help and get a sponsor and actually work a program. And here I am with the most amount of clean time I've ever had. So.
How is your life today?
My life's
compared to what it was.
Oh, jeez, there is no comparison. It's just, yeah. I mean, I have a roof over my head. I have a loving family that I talk to every day, and yeah, it's just good. I actually feel stuff again. I feel emotions. You know, that's the other thing.
Get to shower regularly.
Yeah, I wouldn't for weeks. Yeah. Yeah, I was wearing 2 different boots out there and just sweatpants. I had 1 pair of clothes out there. That was it. Roughing it, living in some random abandoned car.
People don't understand, you know, and as I try to tell people every day, man, it's like, dude, if you think you're doing this yourself, man, let me tell you something. It's the white knuckle experience. Yeah. You know, if you want to really just grind and don't think you need a sponsor, don't think you need a support group, you know, and that's why there are millions of people clean and in NA and millions of people sober in AA. And that's why AA and NA are worldwide, and that's why they have national conventions. And people, I mean, some of those conventions are filled up with hundreds of people, thousands, tens of thousands, if not 100,000 people. Some of these conventions that they go, the world conventions are insane. And it's so, you know, the guys that are out there white knuckling it, thinking that you're doing this and that you know, that you're so great that you don't need a support system. You don't need to go to meetings. I mean, good luck, man. I mean, wishing you all the best, dude. But as I've always learned, and, you know, as you've heard guys like Chris Raymer say, and, you know, it's only a matter of time that because it's really not recovery at that point. You're just living abstinent.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, if you're not doing the inventory, making the amends, you know, living righteously, you're doing all the things that people in recovery do, you know, like working a 12-step program. Yeah. And for those people that say, oh, it's an occult or it's this or that or blah, 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 or it's an occult, not an occult, but a cult. It's not a cult. You know, here's the great thing about what I've always learned about AA and NA meetings and my dad said this to me a long time ago. He goes, you know why the doors of NA and AA are open? Is for when you need a meeting, because you came in to recovery to get a life, right? And now that when I started living a life after I got like a year and a half clean or something like that, my dad was like, hey, how many meetings you going to? And I was like, I don't know, 5, 6 a week. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm going. What do you mean? 5 or 6, sometimes 7. I'll go to 1 a day. And he goes, what do you got going on? He goes, what are you hiding in the rooms?
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I thought you were supposed to go to meetings. He goes, Michael, he said, let me ask you something. When you wanted to get sober or clean, whatever it was, he's like, why did you do that? He's like, I was like, because I wanted a better life. He's like, okay, great. So now you're a year and a half clean and you're still going to 6, 7 meetings a week. He's like, but you have a girlfriend at home. You've got 2 kids, or she has 2 kids, you know, and you've got these mentoring roles. And obviously, you know, you asked for this new life and you got it. So now start living it, you know, and utilize the meetings for what they're for. You know, that's why you have a sponsor.
Yeah. That
you can call regularly. So when you can't get to the meetings, or let's say you don't get to meeting for a week, you know, and you get to meetings during that week, you should have at least talked to your sponsor 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Easily. And that's the beauty of the sponsorship. You know, I mean, let me tell you something. I love being in recovery. I could never give back to Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous the life that it gave me. Because I never thought I would be any better than what I was at that time when I got out of primary purpose in Cleveland. Yeah, dude, I was like, fuck, here I am. You know, I mean, I just got out of primary purpose. I was there 2 weeks, and everybody was sitting around talking about, yeah, man, we're going to get high, man. I just talked to my boy. He's got some great shit. As soon as I get out of here, we're going to. And I looked at the guy who ran that place, Chuck, and I said, I need to talk to you, bro. I was like, I can't be in here. I'm like, everybody's going to IOP, and I was like, but there's me and 2 other guys, Lucas and Tristan. We're hanging out in the back of the pavilion at Primary Purpose, and we're reading and highlighting the big book every night, because that's all we had was big books until I found Narcotics Anonymous when I got back to Florida. And so I did the first 164 pages of the big book while I was sitting there waiting for you to pick me up in my car, in Ohio.
Yeah.
So, but he was, but during that, I walked up to that guy and he's like, "Oh, you'll be high in a week. You'll be high tonight." That's what he told me. That's what Chuck told me. Him and the other guy, James or John, or I forget what the white hairs guy's name. But they're like, "Oh yeah, you'll be high tonight." And I'm like, you don't. Let me tell you something. When you've experienced enough the violence, mental violence, spiritual violence, physical and verbal violence that I've experienced, peace is all I wanted at that time.
Yeah.
I just wanted fucking peace. And so I told this guy, I was like, imagine you have a room full of people with the flu, and you got one guy who's not sick yet. And that guy, if he sits in the room with the guys with the flu, is inevitably going to wind up getting the flu. I'm going to wind up going getting high again.
Yeah.
I was like, these monkey dicks you got sitting out here talking about getting high every 5 minutes. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna stay clean sitting here in this facility that's supposed to be promoting recovery and health. Meanwhile, all that guy ever thought about was getting his fucking facility cleaned. Hey, make sure you do your chores. Yeah. Make sure your bed's made and this, that, and you did your chores and you blah, 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 and boom, 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 boom. And, and I was just like, man, wow. Where's the focus on the recovery? And they bring in a speaker every other night to talk in the gym. If you could,
there.
Yeah, if you couldn't go out. Yeah, I know. My favorite guy, though, is, what's his name? Brown. Jim Brown. Is it Jim Brown or what's his name? You know the guy I'm talking about?
I can't remember.
Black dude. God, I think I have his number in my phone.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Oh God. Well, it's just like a celebrity guy's name too.
Yeah,
I forget who it is.
Can't remember.
I'll have to look at my phone. But anyway, that dude, I couldn't wait for him. He used to come like Tuesday afternoons or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He'd tell you, yeah, you don't give a shit about them. You never thought about your daughter when you were using. There was a lot of good, like all the speakers that came in there were great, but the way the facility was ran was terrible. Yeah. And so I left after 2 weeks and went down to see my dad down in Florida, and I got a sponsor the minute. Matter of fact, I stayed at my cousin Tommy English's house in Cleveland on Avon Lake. That night after I left, I went to a meeting. And the van, the druggy buggy, pulls up to the meeting, and everybody gets out, and I'm like, hey, make sure you tell Chuck you saw me at a meeting tonight. Make sure you tell him.
Yeah.
Because he said I'll be high by the end of the night.
Yeah.
And then I left Tommy's, and I went to my dad's house in Florida, and I got a sponsor who had 36 years at that time. That guy's got 40 years now. Joe Monty, and I had him as my sponsor, and then I was going to NA and AA meetings at the time, and then got down to Florida, picked up my sponsor Mark S. down there, and it's been great. It's been great. I mean, I don't talk to Mark as often as I do because I talk to Chris more now, but it's like I have so many spiritual advisors and so many different people. Plus, I've got Dana who's your sponsor that I talk to regularly, and it's about that support network, that family.
Yep.
I think that's one thing that keeps us all together is that, is that we have a good support network. We have a nice net around us, with Dan and Chris Campion, and you got Norman, you got myself, and you got a lot of inspiration that keeps you going.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you've been through some shit.
Yeah, to say the least.
And now you're just you're trying to climb out of it all, and let me tell you something. There's nothing better, no better feeling than the comeback.
Yeah.
From the setback, because you were set back, quite a few years, but the great news is watching your comeback right now has been fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to take a little while, because of all the shit I fucked up back then, but
yeah,
it's all catching back up, but, we're dealing with it slowly, and, everything will be settled in September. I will have nothing over my head, nothing, and yeah.
Well, you've done the work.
Yeah, and a little bit of time. I was always expecting a quick fix, so and You know,
That's why we always get high.
13 years of fucking, ruining your life. I can't expect everything to just happen in a year, so, or a little less than a year, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, everybody, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say recovers at a different pace, but they're different stages of their lives. Like for instance, Dan, who I can use as an example. Dan's different, has a different situation than your situation.
Mm.
So it was easier for Dan to go into right from where he was because he had the driver's license, had the car. He was already set up for success before he walked out of the Lantern in Cleveland.
Yeah, for sure.
And then here you come out with suspended license, all the stuff you had going on at the what's that?
It's stuff we didn't know about.
Yeah. And then then the wreckage of the past shows up, and then all of a sudden a couple more surprises, and you're like, holy fuck, when does it end?
Yeah.
Like, how much more is it going to keep raining?
Yeah.
But the good news is, and which I've seen and we talked about the other day, is that when you're in the middle of the storm, just learn how to dance in the rain.
Yeah, for sure.
And you've done a pretty good job about that, man.
Yeah.
What do you think the best part of your recovery is right now? Like, what's the best part about being clean for you on a regular basis?
Probably just being able to talk to my family again. I mean, when I was out there getting high, I didn't call you, obviously, and I called my mom maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, and
sure,
I was just alone. Jeez, that feeling of being alone is just horrible. The only time I called people was when I needed shit. Was when I needed money or I needed to come stay at somebody's house or something. That's why nobody wanted to. None of the people I was knew out there that weren't addicts would never answer the phone for me. It was because I always needed shit, and I'm always I'm trying to finesse something, and so it's good to be able to have relationships with all those people again, and have a healthy relationship.
Not to be a taker anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing, and a lot of people. Man, again, this is another great thing to stress on 12-step programs. If you think you're doing this stuff on your own, is that the 12-step program teaches you how not to be a taker anymore. It teaches you how to be selfless as opposed to selfish. Because when we do that inventory and we start looking at the person we are, the character defects, all that stuff that we need to see. That's because if I'm unwilling to look at the things that are wrong with me, then I'm the biggest idiot in the room. That's what I can say for myself, is that I always have to do direct reflection constantly.
Yeah. I
always need to be knowing what's going on with me, because if I'm not constantly improving, I'm going backwards. I always have to be looking at the, was I honest with everybody today? And I thank God I don't have to lie anymore. It's just it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
I don't have to bullshit anybody about anything anymore. I don't have to do any of that stuff. It's so much easier to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Than it is to, excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat. Than it is to lie.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to make up any more lies to carry that.
Cover your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, but you said this. You did this on that.
Wrong.
Yeah, you obviously heard me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would have never said that. I don't even use that word.
Yeah.
I
think the great thing is like just the feeling of not needing something in my body, or the panic in the morning. Before I was with that girl, it was just, how am I gonna get money today? And it's just the calmness of the mind is just, it's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy, because I lived like that for so long. That's all I was used to. So to wake up not on Suboxone, not on nothing, and to just wake up and enjoy the morning and not have to worry about shit like that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you think about where you came from and what your life was like back, I mean, plus you get to go to the gym every day.
Exactly.
You're eating healthy. I mean, I just look at how you came to me.
Yeah.
When you got here, which is you were starting to look healthy.
Yeah.
But now that you go to the gym and everything else, it's just a completely different dude, man. It's like. I don't know. You're unparalleled compared to what you were when you first got here.
Yep.
And I wish I had the picture.
I still got it.
I know you got it. I want to say, because I wanted to hold it up to the camera.
Yeah.
So that people could see
I don't know where my phone.
you know, like how far you've come from. I think I have it. I'm trying to find it right now because I wanted them to see how far you've come from where you were.
Yeah, that's great. It's here. I got my phone.
Did you find your phone?
It's right here.
Let me see it.
Oh, I have the intake picture from Silver Maple, and then I have the one where I was.
Where's the one where I took the picture I took of you, Cracky McCrackerson?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
I was 117.
17 pounds, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So people can, because I want to show people the complete difference of, you know, what you were before and where you are today. It's night and day.
Yeah, when I was on the street, and
I mean, I'm not going to have them rip your shirt off and, you know, flex for them all.
When I was on the street, you know, I got so skinny because when I was on the street, every once in a while, my mom would, you know, she'd give me $10 or $20 for food. And I wouldn't eat for 2 days, and she'd give me some money for food, and I'd be starving, and of course, I'm not gonna spend the money on food. You know, it's
get the bag.
Yeah, that shit. The addiction takes over your what is it? Your survival instincts. It like overrides like your effort.
Yeah, instead of eating food, it's let's just get high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that instinct as well. I mean, you know, cocaine's the same thing. It was like, oh, you know, I'm either going to eat, which I could go buy a case of ramen noodles. So just so people can see this out there. I mean, and obviously you can see what Jake looks like on camera. Let me show you this picture. This is him deep in his addiction. I mean, you can see he looks like an 80-year-old man. And look how skinny the neck is. Eyes are sunken in.
Yeah, my cheeks.
Yeah, everything. And you would never know that that's the same kid. Well, I mean, you would know just looking at him. I mean, you can. But that's what fentanyl and heroin and crack all basically did. I mean, because you were just loading up on anything you could.
Methamphetamine, crack,
yeah,
heroin. It was just whatever was around. I mean, it was just yeah. And I just didn't want to feel normal.
Period.
Sober.
You just didn't want to feel. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, my life was in such a bad place. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I had no fear of dying at that point. It was just nothing really mattered anymore. So.
Let it rip.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're let the cards fall where they may. I'm ready to party.
That's pretty much how it works.
And if I die, great. If I go to jail, great. Or however it's going to play out, where it's going to play out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it was funny thing. I was about a year ago, or maybe 2, when I was doing comedy. I was doing stand-up comedy. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was, you know, today being May the 4th, it's Star Wars Day. You know, may the 4th be with you. It was funny because we were talking about like Darth Vader would be the addiction. You know, he's the dope dealer.
Yeah.
And Chewbacca was like this crazy addict, but Obi-Wan is the sponsor of Luke.
Yeah.
You know, like, Luke, use the Force. You know, trust the higher power.
Yeah.
Use the higher power to fix your life. You know, and you know, it's so funny. We had this whole joke that we were talking about how Han Solo's the drunk. You know, that just can't ever. He's got to have his hands on all the ladies at the meeting. You know, 13th step in every one of them that comes in the room.
Yeah, oh jeez.
Chewbacca's the crackhead. You know, you just can't. You have no idea what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, and it was funny, man. But it's so funny, the similarities of some of the movies you watch out there today compared to, you know, to recovery, because if you a lot of stuff, the messages are all the same now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll tell you a great book that's worked for me was Inner Excellence, and started reading that, highlighting it. You know, I got highlighted pages. But there's that book, when I saw A.J. Brown, it was during the playoffs this past year. They had flashed that A.J. Brown was sitting on the sideline reading a book, and I was just trying to see what the name of the book was, and I had saw it. It was Inner Excellence. This is before they zoomed in on it or anything like that. And I told my wife, I said, look this book up. And she looked it up, and I said, can you order that for me? So I started reading that book. Let me tell you something. You want to talk about life-changing? That book is, it's the 12 steps without the 12 steps, without needing it telling you how to work a 12-step program. It kind of just gives you the idea of just how to be a good human. You know, it's like What's that?
It's like a roadmap.
Kind of similar, yeah. Each chapter, I love chapter 5 in this book, which chapter 5 was, let me tell you about it. It was really good.
Samurai.
Yeah. How'd you know? You've been sneaking in the Code of the Samurai, bro. That's my favorite chapter right there. Because it really gives you an idea how to be a good human.
Yeah.
Because the samurai lived in the present moment,
On your shield.
and they looked forward to death.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because they loved their people. They were offering them, so every time they went out of the village or went to war, they did that because they wanted everybody else to be free and they loved everyone. They were being selfless. They were
to them.
They were selfless warriors. Yeah, and that's why they were honored. That's why the samurai was like, you saw a samurai come back from war, you're like, oh my God. He was like, he was like a god to the people, but the guy was the samurai was one of the most humblest people.
Yeah.
In the camp. It was almost like a Buddha-esque type of dude. But yeah, I love the Code of the Samurai. Matt was telling me, my good buddy of mine was telling me to read chapter 9. So I'm going to try and finish some of this book, get some of these other chapters and get up to chapter 9. And then going to try and make this a regular thing, obviously doing the show, whether it's an hour, 45 minutes, blah, blah, blah. But I do know that, the one thing most importantly is that if for all the struggling addicts out there and people, the one thing I want to tell you is that you can always call this line, 803-526-7858. We'll always take your call. You can call me when we're not off the air. We're not on the air, not doing this live show, man. If you need to talk and need some help with addiction, absolutely pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
One of the cool things that I did see when we were at that convention or the speaking engagement that I was at, where by the keynote speaker for the state of Maryland, child welfare and trauma, was that a lot of people are turning to psychedelic therapies.
Yeah, that was crazy.
The lady there was talking about the ketamine treatments.
Yeah.
So and it's so funny because I had talked to a buddy of mine just last week, and he was telling me, he's like, "Oh, dude, I did ketamine therapy 3 years ago in Miami."
Yeah.
And he was telling me about it, and he was like, "Dude, he goes, I've never felt it necessary to pick up a drink or a drug ever again."
I believe it.
And it's like people are just, because I don't know what it's doing, but it's some of the psychedelic therapies that they're doing, or these ketamine therapies. You have people going to, on ayahuasca retreats. Mm-hmm. You have people going to Costa Rica to do ibogaine.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing these stories. I keep seeing all these different things of people whose lives have changed because of psychedelic therapy.
Yeah.
And even the people that are microdosing mushrooms. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can see why the ketamine one, though. As you remember, the ketamine day.
Sure.
You felt great after. You felt almost like woken up. It was very strange. It was a strange feeling to describe, but
yeah, there was no detox. There was no
amazing after,
and there was no crave. Like, oh my God, I gotta have more.
Yeah.
Like ketamine was something that was fun. You could do, blast rail a line and have a great time. And and as long as you didn't hit the K-hole, if you hit the K-hole, you're just going to be in the loop for a minute.
Yeah.
Deep in the white. And but it's the story, it's the life, it's the stuff that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And but it's so funny how many people are going that direction.
Yeah, there was a lot of people in that ketamine therapy class when we were at that speaking engagement. There was like a lot of people in there learning about that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and there are people that are continuously learning and seeking out addiction, seeking out different addiction alternatives to addiction. So, that's the big thing. And Scott Reddish just sent me a face with that. She's just, what a character. He's just an idiot. I love him to death, but he's just he's a character.
Yeah.
I'll show you the message after. It probably wouldn't be appropriate to say what he said, but it was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a character.
Yeah, Scott's cool.
But that's the one thing that I found, that the world is changing.
Yeah.
There are people it's going that direction of, I see people looking for other alternatives. People, dude, the one big thing I saw just recently was like before Easter was 78% of young adults between the ages of like 23 and 30 have returned to the or have come to the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Like people are looking for a higher power. They're looking for something because the world's got its own, everybody's got problems, and it's like, man, if you think the world is going to save you over your problems or somebody's coming to save you, the only person that could save you is you.
Yeah, the world feels like a darker place today than it has in the past.
Yeah, I would never have recognized the world. I would have never thought the world was going to come to being the way it is today when I was, 23, when I was your age.
Yeah.
So 20, what is it? You're 31, I'm 54. It's 17 years ago, there's no way that I would have thought that the world is going to be how it is today. Fentanyl addiction, the invasion of the border, or whatever, all the stuff that's going on, inflation at all-time highs, housing prices double, it's unaffordable.
Yeah.
I worry about your generation, your guys, any kid that's in there that's 18, 19, or 20, or 30 even, that wants to buy a house. It's like, oh my God, the interest rate's 6.7. That's if you got great credit. If not, you're in the 8s or 9s or 10s. And it's they make it unaffordable for your generation to get settled, to get stuff done. And that's why I tell you boys, man, stay here as long as you need to.
Yeah.
Because it's save until you got enough money for a down payment on a house. Because it's way too hard out there.
Yeah.
I feel bad for people that are raising kids at this age. If you're raising kids coming up into the next generations after generations, woo.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah.
Scary thought.
Yeah, if you thought the cost of diapers were tough 10 years ago, take a look at what the cost of diapers are today.
Yeah, the world needs a big change.
Yeah, not to mention you could barely get baby formula. When Biden was in office a couple of years ago, they were struggling to find baby formulas on the shelves. I mean, can you imagine?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, back to breastfeeding, the old school days,
That's it.
Slap the old pump on there and, motor it out.
Yeah.
Get you a couple 6 or 7 bottles, slap them in the fridge, and let's go.
Call it a day.
Yeah, call it a day. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's interesting. I got to learn a lot from that speaking engagement, that little keynote speaking. I forget, a workshop is what they called it, man. And if you've never done public speaking before, let me tell you something. The bigger the crowd, the more nerves, the bigger the stomach butterflies are.
Even talking in an NA meeting, my fucking Adam's apple gets stuck in my throat.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah, talking to 300 people. I mean, I did stand-up comedy in a room of, maybe 150, but, dude, it's a whole nother story when you're standing in front of, mental health professionals and trauma professionals, 300 people in a room, and you're like, oh, my God, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
But thank God you write the shit out and, and know a little. And the other thing is having knowledge, having lived life experience. But, and I look forward to the next one. I learned a lot on that.
Yeah.
On that last one. And now I've got some more stuff that I want to use for the next speaking engagement for mental. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for guys out there. We're probably the biggest group of dudes that are people that don't deal with mental health. We're just, as I've always remembered myself, is just like suck it up and keep moving.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, okay, that shit's going on. Okay, now what? Chop wood, carry water. When you're done with that, chop more wood, carry more water.
Yeah.
As opposed to talking about, because I mean, the world looks at it. Some people look at it as soft. I think mental health is about the people you surround yourself with, really. I mean, you see who I surround myself with, the guys that, I surround myself with guys that are really positive, leveling up, doing 6-figure sales guys and guys that are going places, doing things, I'm not down, hanging out with people I used to use with. I'm not hanging out in places I used to drink. I'm not, or do any of that shit. I mean, because it just doesn't have the appeal to me anymore. I'd rather go on a vacation somewhere or go stay in a nice, like we did over in October when we went on the spiritual retreat, and just went, ziplining through the Smoky Mountains and just cool shit like that. It was, That was a win-win all day.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and a lot of people that I wanted to have go with us on that, and they missed the boat on that. Man, a bunch of people I tried to get to come with us on that, aside from the 10 that we had already had there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple other guys in mind, and, those guys are, doing it themselves.
Yeah.
White knuckling it or whatever they're doing, and it's, you try to reach people in different levels. And so you can't, here's the one thing I do know is you can try and take somebody up, but if they're unwilling to come up, then they're going to take you down.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can understand what I'm saying on that. Yeah. So that's why I'm always trying to be with like really positive people that are working a program of recovery. Yeah. Working absolutely striving to be the best version of themselves, leveling up on every level. And then the cool thing is when you start getting together with people, the one thing I can tell you about that I watched in Narcotics Anonymous or even in Alcoholics Anonymous was people, guy would say, hey man, I'm trying to feed my family. I've been out of work for the last 6 months. I just got out of rehab 30 days ago. I got 4 months clean, whatever it's going to be. And I can't tell you how many guys I watch come up to a dude after a meeting and be like, hey man, I can pay you 18, 19, 20 bucks an hour, but it's something. Let me help you feed your family. If this works out to be something good, we can find you a better role with the company or what. I've seen so many of those situations, and I've seen guys that came into NA and now they're running their own roofing companies. You've seen it. We know the people.
Yeah, well, addicts are some of the smartest people I've fucking met, so
yeah,
I believe it.
Well, and they say a lot of people, the reason addicts are addicts is because they don't know what to do with the thought process that's going on.
Yeah. You
got so much going through the head that the only way to quiet the voices are use them.
Yeah.
Use them. So that's the one thing I have realized over time is that you want to see where a guy's going, look at who he surrounds himself with. If he's a lone wolf McQuaid, man, I mean, there's some people that I know that why are you laughing?
McQuaid.
Yeah, if you're lone wolf McQuaiding it, buddy, man, I mean, it's a tough existence. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Because you need support. You need guys. And if you're a guy or you're a girl, getting clean or sober, stay with it. Stay with those people. Find the like-minded people. Just go to one meeting. Just try. It doesn't mean you have to stay sober tonight. But if you at least made the opportunity to go there, because all you need is a desire.
Yeah. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah. You might leave happy floating on a cloud and have met some really good people that want to help you change your life.
Yeah.
And maybe introduce you to God when you're ready for that whole thing.
Yeah.
But that comes in time. All that shit happens over time, man. We learn how to build these relationships. And, so, try everything you can. Try white knuckling it. Try all by yourself. But, at the end of the day, if you really want to find out, what you're capable of, be willing to do something you're unwilling to do. That's what they say is the true test of discipline is if you really want to learn discipline, do something you don't want to do, and do it like you love it.
Yeah.
Like go to a meeting. There's nights I don't want to go to a meeting, but I'm like, I got to go.
Yeah.
I just, I haven't been in a week. I haven't been in 2 weeks. Yeah. I need to get to a meeting tonight. I need to be there to hear what somebody else is going through.
Yeah.
And maybe share, my experience, strength, and hope with somebody who's going through some shit. So, that's the beauty of recovery. It's good. There's something for everybody. Not everybody's for you, but not everybody's against you. And the people that, want to be the people that'll gravitate to you are going to be people that are like-minded. That's the one thing I have learned about recovery, man, and it's been quite the journey, man. So join us next Sunday. I'm not sure who we're going to have as a guest, but I'm going to try and see if I can get Mark Matthews. Mark Matthews is the guy who is a good friend of mine, actually. He used to we worked together at 96K Rock in Fort Myers. And he has started a recovery podcast community called Serenity Cast. Nice. And I'd like to have him come on and talk about Serenity Cast as well. You can find us on iHeartRadio. You can find us on Apple, iTunes Podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on, Amazon Music. We're on all that, man. It's Shot of Hope Live. We'll see you guys next Sunday. J Money,
Yeah, take care.
thanks.